Good morning. This is Killshot from 99 Sports. Want to say what's up to everybody. We're going to do a little bit of football pick today. We were not on fire with the college picks yesterday. Some crazy, crazy, stunning stuff. But hopefully we'll get it pointed in the right direction for the NFL stuff today. And then, of course, we are going to do some Walking Dead chat later on tonight. A lot of Fear, 2 more episodes of Fear. And if you guys aren't watching this live, hopefully you get a chance to tune in and watch a little bit of the playback. And could jump up here. I'm going to hang out with Morris here today while we're doing this. So I am going, what's up, Chip? Good to see you. Hopefully a few other people will join us. And I'm going to do a little bit of fantasy football picks. And also we're going to talk about some FanDuel as well. There's some pretty good lineup possibilities. A lot of high totals today. So this is one of the higher totals I've seen. We got 53.5, 55, 55, 54.5, 54.5. So a lot of scoring expected today. What's weird is a lot of times when you get these high scoring predictions, it turns out to be lower scoring than the experts think. So I'm just going to go through, pick each one of these games, and then tell you whether I think it's going to be over or under. Starting out, there's some good ones. There's some good matchups. What's funny about this, and this is the first time I think this has happened in a while. This is week 3, and there are no battles between teams that are 2-0. There's no battles of teams that are undefeated. Now, there's a couple matchups between some teams that have not won yet, but not 2 undefeated teams squaring off, which is kind of odd for only the 3rd week. So it shows there's a lot of balance throughout the league. And I'm going to go with a lot of home teams today. So we'll start out with the Saints at Atlanta. Atlanta's beat up on defense. The Saints haven't really figured it out. So I think this is going to be Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. I mean, so many scores in this game. I've got Atlanta pulling this thing out. Atlanta, the spread has changed to start out 3.5. It's down to 2. I did not like it at 3.5, to be honest with you. I probably would have leaned a little bit more toward New Orleans because I think this is going to come down to a field goal. I got Atlanta 38-35, way over the total as well. I think it's going to be a shootout. So, what's up, Ann? Shelton? Good to see all of you. Thank you for popping in. I know a lot of people tune in because they just want to see how their team does. Dave Doherty, I like the Ravens at home. We'll get to that in 1 minute. But yeah, I like Atlanta by a field goal. High scoring affair. Kansas City and San Francisco, I got to tell you, I am on the Patrick Mahomes fan wagon. I even picked up some of his rookie cards. So I'm a believer, man. He is slinging the ball. Unbelievable. Kansas City started out as a 6.5-point favorite. It's down to 6. I actually like Kansas City. I like it to be another shootout. The total on this one's 55. I got Kansas City scoring 42. You got Hill. I mean, you got Kareem Hunt. I mean, so many offensive weapons. Kelsey, 42-28. I got KC. I don't think San Fran can score with them. So I'm going to take KC to cover and to cover by a lot. That's actually one of my favorites today and way over the total. All right, the next one. Who would have thought that John Gruden could be staring down 0-3? But I think that's what's going to happen. It's been a while since New England had some competition in that division. Looks like Miami might be legit. I've got Miami at home. Their defense they lost in Ndamukong Suh, but their defense looks better without him. I got Miami 24-17 under the total. The total's 44.5. Miami is they were a 3.5-point favorite, actually went down. So that means people are moving some money over on the Raiders. I guess it's the same thing. You got to figure that there's a John Gruden built into the point spreads. Raiders looked good last week, and I know they lost a heartbreaker, but they didn't look good versus the Rams. They're going to have to figure their offense out. Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, that's a toss-up, but if I got to pick one, I'm going to go with home field advantage. So I think Miami by a touchdown, 24-17, but under the total. I see Fluff agrees with me, saying the Fins. So right there, actually, Fluff, we're the same. We picked the first 3. This one is it's interesting because normally this is the highest point spread in a while. So Minnesota, it was 16.5. It actually went up 17. And usually that's a sign of disrespect, right? When you're given that many points and they say, well, the underdog's going to come in, they're going to play tough. They might for a quarter, but Minnesota is so much better offensively. They're so much better. And they just signed Bailey as a place kicker, and that was really their only weakness. I think Minnesota shored up everything. I got Minnesota in a big, big blowout, not just to cover the 17, but I got Minnesota 38-13. 38-13. Minnesota in a big, big way. I like them a lot, not only to cover, but 25 points over the total. Total's 41.5. So not a big total there, and I got Minnesota almost hitting the total. And I think it's going to be one of those going to be like 38-0, and they're just going to let them do their things at the end. You know, run up and down the field. It'll be a shutout for a while, and then they'll get that cheap garbage touchdown, make it 38, or maybe a couple field goals. And at that point, once there's no shutout, Minnesota's like, all right, let them score a couple more times, just a couple easy things. Take our starters out and rest some people. Another big game, and I'm surprised that Tommy's not here because he's going to like this. The return of Carson Wentz, and this was 6.5 point spread. It's maintained a 6.5 point spread. I like Philly big in this game. Doug Peterson said he's not going to coach scared, and the way he coached in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, he won't. I think Carson Wentz is going to let it fly. He's going to get out there and test it. I like Philly big in this one, 35-20. 35-20. Covering the point spread with a little bit to spare. The total on this is 46, so I like Philly, and I like the over. All right. Now we're finally going to get to, this is my first upset of the day. Green Bay at Washington. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. We know he's got the problem with the knee. Crazy stat here. Well, I don't know if it's an exact stat, but teams that play back-to-back home games and lose the first and don't cover, I don't know the exact number, so I'm making this stat up, but it is something that's a big number because I heard it, many years ago. It's like 80% of the time they come back in the second week of a back-to-back homestand and cover the spread. So Washington is a 2.5 point underdog. I actually got Washington to win this game. I got their defense to show up. 20-17. Washington pulls the upset. And Chip, I'm not starting Aaron Rodgers. If you've got, well, give me an option. Who else do you have? But there are people on waivers that that are pretty easy to pick up. But, I mean, you could have gotten Ryan Fitzpatrick probably in some leagues. I would take, I would take Andrew Luck over Aaron Rodgers. Here's another stat. Philly's defense has given up the highest amount to wideouts. So that's why I think Philly's going to outscore Indy. And we know that Indianapolis can, if they get down a little bit, Andrew Luck's going to get some garbage points. Jack Doyle's out for Indy. And we'll go into fantasy in just a little bit. But Eric Ebron could have a big day. T.Y. Hilton. I'm expecting T.Y. Hilton to have a huge day. Couple touchdowns. But I still got him to lose. But I think the other thing with Green Bay, keep in mind, they're going to try to get the running game established. Aaron Jones is back this week. So I wouldn't expect a big game from Aaron Jones. I actually have him on my bench. And you know what? I'm going to hold on. I'm going to get into fantasy in a little bit because I do have some things we want to talk about. But I'm going to go 20-17 Washington. The total's 45. I think it's going to be one of those kind of chilly, rainy days in Washington. They'll establish Peterson. Going to run the clock. Going to be time of possession type of game. Take Washington in a mild upset. Now, it won't be a huge upset because they're 2.5 point dog at home. All right, Carolina, Cincinnati. This one as well. Cincinnati 2-0. Carolina 1-1. Carolina was a 2.5 point favorite. Actually went up to 3. I like Carolina in this game. 20-13. I like it under the total. Once again, you got Giovanni Bernard is going to be taking over for Joe Mixon. I think that's a bigger loss than people realize. Bernard, look, he can catch the ball in the backfield, but I have Mixon on my fantasy team, and I feel like that A.J. Green, now he's just going to get all the attention. They're going to double team him. So I do have Carolina by a touchdown, 20-17. Jacksonville and Tennessee. Jacksonville was a 6.5-point favorite early in the week. It went all the way up to 10. Big money. That's a 4-point move. 3.5-point move is a big move. So that means all the money is pretty much on Jacksonville at home. Because it's such a big move, I have Jacksonville to win the game, but I got Tennessee to cover, 23-16. No Fournette, no T.J. Yeldon. Tennessee is going to play the pass. So, they're going to be down to a third running back. 23-16. Tennessee keeps it close. Division rivalry. I don't think this is a blowout. The total on this is 40. So, I would take Tennessee. I would leave the total alone because, I got 39 coming in at this. If the total's 40, then might be one better to watch. Baltimore at home versus Denver. The Ravens have they only played one game. It was lights out at home, and it was against Buffalo. But Baltimore is it was 5.5-point favorite there. It's actually up to 6 now. Baltimore 6-point favorite against Denver. I am not sold that Denver's a good football team, and I think Baltimore's defense is better than Denver's defense, and they have the home crowd. I got Baltimore 28-17. So I got Baltimore to cover. Oh, Dave Doherty says Ravens 21-17. So he's taking the Ravens, but not to cover the spread. I got them, and I got them covering the spread, 28-17. Houston and the Giants. Giants on the road here. Houston was a 3.5-point favorite. That's all the way up to 6. So heavy betting once again on Houston. I'm going to take the Giants here to hang around. I got Houston to win the game, 31-28. I think this is going to be more exciting than people think. The total's 42.5. Watson, Hopkins, Will Fuller, Saquon Barkley. I still think Eli Manning is a bum. I'm sorry. I think he's going to be good enough to keep the game close, but I love Barkley. I wish they would have passed on Barkley and got a quarterback, though. I'm one of those that I don't know that Barkley is a generational talent because I think you get the running back from Stanford next year and he'll be just as good as Barkley, or you get the running back for Penn State next year and he's going to be as good as Barkley. There's going to be some talented running backs, but I do think that this quarterback class this past year was, we'll see with Allen from Buffalo, but I do think that there was some talent top to bottom that you could have gotten a good quarterback. So I'm going to take Houston to win, but I'm going to take the Giants to cover 31-28, and I like way over the total. Next one, we got the Rams and the Chargers. Rams were a 6.5-point favorite. It's up to 7. I like the Chargers in this game. There really is no home field advantage. They're both in Los Angeles. And I'm going to stay away from the total because I've got it right on the total. I've got the Rams to win the game 28-27. 28-27, right on the total. But I'm going to take the Chargers plus the 7 points. I like the Chargers plus the 7. All right, and then we got Arizona. And I've got this as a big upset too. Chicago at Arizona. I know everybody loves Chicago's defense at this point. Arizona's defense is supposed to be much
better than what it is. Chicago was a 4.5-point favorite early in the week. Big money coming in on Chicago. It's up to 6. I like Arizona to win the game. I think, I know this is going to be the one everybody's going to say, what? What just happened there? I'm going Arizona 16-14 in a slow, boring, nobody cares game. Big game from David Johnson. I think David Johnson's going to get it on track today. And I like Arizona to pull off the upset at home. I'm just not sold on the Bears yet. I don't love Sam Bradford either, but Mitch Trubisky is good, can be good in the future, but I think it's too early for Chicago to be a big favorite. I know we got some Bears fans that aren't going to like that prediction either, but keep an eye on that game. Arizona at home. Arizona's not going to go 0-16. They're going to have to beat somebody. Might as well get an early one versus the Bears. Don't sell out to the Bears just yet. Dallas and Seattle. Seattle was a 2.5-point favorite, went down to 1.5, partially because people just like Dallas, and they like betting on Dallas. I'm going to take Seattle. This is going to be a push. I'm going to pick this as a push. I got several that are right on the point spread today. Seattle wins 24-23. Over the total. but yeah, they're giving 1 point. It went from 2.5 down to 1, by the way. And tonight's game, New England at Detroit. News surfacing today that there was a trade on the table where the Patriots tried to trade Gronkowski to the Lions in the offseason. But Gronkowski threatened to retire, and they didn't. So New England is a 7-point favorite. It's up to 7. I like Detroit at home to cover the point spread, but New England to win. New England 28-24. The total's 54.5. I'd stay away from the totals. Too close to call for me. New England gets the win, but I think it's going to be a Brady touchdown at the end. Detroit 24-21 late in the game. Brady, 2-minute drive. Brady pulls it out 28-24, another heartbreaker. And tomorrow night's game, you got the 0-1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers versus the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joel Fitzmagic is what they're calling him. Tampa Bay was a 2.5-point underdog, and now they're a 1-point favorite. I'm on board. I think the Bucs are for real. I think that they needed just some strong quarterback play. They got the weapons on the outside. I'm going to go with the Bucs. I think the Bucs beat Pittsburgh 26-23 by a field goal, and under the total. Total's 54.5. I think Pittsburgh defense will be better than it was last week. You can't help but be better than how bad they were against Kansas City. But I am going to take Tampa Bay at home. And that's what we got. I feel good about these picks. I feel a lot better about these picks than the college ones yesterday. Yesterday was a good learning experience. So, couple fantasy. You may have them. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is going to be a fantasy star. So that's a no-brainer. I just put that up there because I think he's going to have one of the bigger fantasy days, not only because they're going to utilize him today, but because it's kind of that head-to-head matchup, Giovanni Bernard, and he's a pass-catching running back, so I expect him to have a really big day. And also somebody that you might be able to still pick up in some waiver wires, Eric Ebron. So Frank Reich said he was trying to get the ball to him a little bit more. So when coaches make a concerted effort to throw the ball to a tight end, then I think you got to give that a little bit of attention. So I'm going to go with Eric Ebron and no Jack Doyle. And I do like Carson Wentz, so I got him up there big. So if you haven't had a chance, then pick him up. He was still, as of 2 weeks ago, I think he was still on waivers. Somebody picked him up last week. And I'm going to go through my fantasy lineup for you guys just really quickly so you can see who I benched. And this may be a bad decision, but currently in the only fantasy league I'm in, we do it every year. Next year we'll do a 999 fantasy league. I know Tommy wanted to do that. So currently I'm 2-0, but this is a big matchup. So I'll tell you who I got and who they got. I'm actually projected to lose. This is third week in a row I've been projected to lose. They have Roethlisberger. I have Patrick Mahomes. I did have Andrew Luck on the bench, and I cut Andrew Luck because I have Drew Brees and I have Pat Mahomes. So I'm going with Pat Mahomes over Drew Brees. So they have David Johnson and Tevin Coleman. I have Saquon Barkley, and listen to my running backs. I've got Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon are both hurt, so I have to bench both of them. And this is why I'm the underdog. I'm expected to lose. So they got Johnson and Coleman. I got Saquon Barkley, and I got Eckler for the Chargers starting. I also have on my bench Aaron Jones. So for me, it was a toss-up between Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler. But I think that the Chargers will get down early, and then they'll come back and get the game really close, and it'll be exciting. So I think they're going to be throwing the ball out of the backfield. Now, in 2 weeks, I'm probably going to start Aaron Jones for Green Bay. But the first week back, I don't know how they're going to break him in. They still got time. I mean, they got other options, so I don't see him getting 25 carries. But I could see Eckler getting, 10 receptions out of the backfield. That's what I'm hoping for. Wide receivers, they got Hopkins and A.J. Green. I got Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper. So I'm definitely going to give them the advantage on wide receivers. Tight ends, they got Kyle Rudolph. I got George Kittle. I'm not getting off my George Kittle train. I think Kittle will have a big day today for San Francisco. And then the flex, they got John Brown, and I've got Will Fuller. So I'm hoping that Will Fuller, with double teams going on Hopkins, I'm hoping Will Fuller actually does something. And my defense was the Jets defense. I did get positive, though. I got 4 points. And, with so much scoring and back and forth, their defense is Pittsburgh, so I don't know if they'll get any points with Pittsburgh. So I might have a slight advantage. And in kickers, they have Chris Boswell. We'll see. And I've got Dustin Hopkins. And I also picked up Dan Bailey. So I got Dan Bailey on the bench. And the reason I kept him on the bench is I don't know that Minnesota's going to kick a lot of field goals. I think they're going to be scoring touchdowns on Buffalo. But I do expect Washington to maybe get a couple field goals today. So if I can pull out this win and I can get Joe Mixon back in the near future, Dalvin Cook back, then I feel pretty good about it. I mean, I'm never going to bench Saquon Barkley unless there's a bye. I mean, we know that they're just going to keep running him and running him. They got to justify that pick. But that's kind of that's my fantasy. So want to thank everybody. Appreciate your insight, your input. Looked like we got some people committed to some scores up there. Big upset, once again. I'm going to say Carolina. Well, Carolina is favored, sorry. Carolina will cover the spread by 7. I like that one. But the big upset, I'm going to go with Washington to pull the upset on Green Bay. Yeah, I know, Mike. It's Minnesota and field goals, but I think Dan Bailey is the second most accurate kicker in the history of football. So they just had to open the checkbook and pay him. And I do think that's going to pay off dividends. All right, everybody, really quickly, too, and I promise this, I'm going to just throw my FanDuel lineup out there, too. I don't know how it'll do. One of these days I'm going to hit for maybe 100,000 or a million. But, I do a weekly contest on FanDuel. I've done much better basketball than football. Oh, yeah, I see Tommy with the spoiler makers. I missed college football so much yesterday. I mean, I missed a lot of games. But, all right, so here's my fantasy lineup, and I'm not real high on the quarterback. I think Matt Ryan is due to have a big statistical game at some point, and they're playing the Saints, so I hope that it is in their game plan, just throw and throw and throw. I mean, the easy picks are Mahomes and some of the other people are out there, but they're expensive, and I needed a little bit of a value at quarterback. So I am going to go with Alvin Kamara. I have Austin Eckler in there right now. I'm not sure, but I needed a sleeper as well. And the reason I needed a little bit cheaper at running back and a little bit cheaper at quarterback on FanDuel is because I got Michael Thomas and Julio Jones. And I went with Tyler Lockett. I'm going to give this Will Disley, another shot. I think that it's kind of a game now to Seattle to have a blocking tight end catch footballs. So I got him down for a touchdown. And then I think Mike Williams out of the Chargers. I got a couple Chargers in. I might have to revamp that. And defense, I got the Dolphins defense. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys all popping in. A little bit of your NFL insight. We will be back with The Walking Dead at 8 o'clock tonight, or Fear the Walking Dead. And then we'll do our reactions, and then we're going to talk some spoilers all next week. So enjoy football today, and I will see you all hopefully 8 o'clock tonight. Peace.